Welcome to Cam's Art Out of the Fire. This is episode 3, week 3. Today I'm going to be giving you a rough introductory level of what you're going to need just as a beginner to give you a rough idea. Right, well, let's start with the anvil. This one here is my good old trustworthy, but when I first started off, I actually used a piece of train track like this one here. Used this for about 3 or 4 years, and then once I got into the trade more regularly, I ended up getting an upgrade into a ship anvil, what is about half the size of this one. This is behind me. But yeah, I do recommend getting a good anvil with nice face, nice sides, just so you don't have to worry about the damage. You can buy an anvil about this size for about $600 to $1,000, depending on where you are watching from. I brought this one when I was a third-year apprentice, and it cost me about $400. I know to replace it now, I'm looking about $1,000. But you can buy a brand new anvil from O'Dwyer's Saddlery. It's a horseshoe company in Australia, for around, well, let's say a 45 kilo. When I priced them recently, was just under $700. So depending on what you need, what size, the prices go up from there. Then you're going to need a selection of hammers. I got this 1.3 kilo hammer. This one is used for mostly moving your metal quickly around. So this one's not for finessing stuff. This is just to move the metal quickly. But if you've got someone who's a striker, you can use one of these. This here is a 8-pound sledgehammer. If you're going to use one of these, make sure your anvil is 10 times the weight of the anvil. The hammer has to be 1/100th of the weight of the anvil. So if you swing an 8-pound hammer, you need an 80-kilo hammer, 80-pound anvil and heavier, because this will disform any small anvil. So just be aware of that. You can also use the face of a sledgehammer, like this one, as a little dishing anvil. You can actually use this one as if you're really in a squeeze, you can actually use these as an anvil as well. Good little thing. Brought that from the local hardware store. Then I recommend you getting a ball pin. This one here is a 960 gram hammer. I use this one to do most of my shaping and forming. Because that way I've got the mover, the shaper. This one's good for finishing off your drawers, and shaping up in making circles. This one here actually needs a bit of maintenance. The face is starting to get a dimple in it, but it's also good for dishing and rounding with the ball. Then I've got my 2 small hammers. I've got the ball pin and the cross peen. I use the flats for finishing off and refining into thin tapers, because using a small one means you actually have able to get a finer tip. I use the back of these mostly for dishing rivets, peening over rivets I should say, and shaping and forming, where I use this one more than I use the little small peen. I use the cross peen more. I actually use the back of the peen to actually guide when I'm doing small twists, instead of actually using a set of scroll tongs. I use these. Then from there you go into your tongs. Here's my the ones I use the most of, because I do a lot of smalls and a lot of flat work at the moment. These ones are perfect for doing pinching down and holding onto. I use these more for blade making actually. For gripping onto your items, so you can move it around a bit more. But the other thing is a universal set of tongs, like this one or this one. Yeah, these ones need to be cleaned up, but yeah, these are actually my first set of tongs that I ever made, so I've been trying to avoid not using them as much as I used to, because I don't want to destroy them, where I've made maybe about 30 pairs of these. But from these, you can go also into your rods or your square pieces. This one here is actually a round. These ones actually need to be repaired at the moment. They were left in the forge and burnt the tips off. These ones normally come to yay. But yeah, basically same thing, but these ones will actually pinch onto a round rod and actually hold in position, so it actually means you can do round work a lot easier. But if you can't afford those, you can start off with a set of basic universal pliers. You can get a set of these and weld onto the end and make the handles a bit longer, where I actually don't mind having them short, because normally I'm wearing gloves, I can actually reach in and grab stuff. But I use these more for doing twisting, for cloak pins and other little fine twisting work, instead of actually using the vise and a set of scroll jigs. While talking about twist work, you go in. I have a set of shifters. These ones, this one's for mostly dealing with the gas forge, changing the gas bottle out. But I also use this one for the heavier duty twists in railings, door handles, and that kind of stuff. But these, to do that, I also need to use the leg vise. What I've got here. This is actually my smallest one I've got. I do recommend getting a good vise, because if you've got a good vise, you're not going to have issues of it falling over and doing damage. Make sure you also got a solid bench. From there, I'll go. Let's go. You need your files, your rasps. I've got an old Farrier's rasp here. I use for hot rasping. I also use this for woodwork and stripping back handles of knives very quickly, and axe handles. So I use this one a lot. But I also have here a fine tooth file that I use for doing blade work a lot more. This is so you can actually get that nice smooth cuts instead of leaving a lot of scratch marks. I recommend getting a fine tooth file for doing your metalwork. You can also go into the engineering files, what are the real small ones as well. Then from there, I recommend getting your cut tools. Like I've got my chisel here, I've got my hot cut tool. This one here goes in the anvil. But the chisel, I normally work on that piece of train track that I had before as a cutting surface. But yeah, you can buy the chisels from most hardware stores. You can work your way up into hacksaw. I do recommend getting a good hacksaw. Make sure you get steel blades, the steel cutting blades to be working in here. I do recommend this stuff at your hacksaw for small work, not your big work. I recommend going into your angle grinders to do that one, but that's more advanced stuff. And one of the most important things that to clean up your work, a good wire brush. This will save you a lot of headaches. You can use a hand powered one, or you can use a drill powered one. Speed brush. This one's a carbon steel one, so you actually strip the springs off easier. I've also got a bronze one for when you're doing bronze coating. And then I've got for here, this is something I recommend as a long-term investment, is the gas forge. The gas forge is perfect for doing the stuff that you don't need to bring up to welding temperature unless you actually set it up to do welding temperature. This one here is a Damascus O'Dwyer's. I believe you can't get these anymore due to the company has closed. But this one here I brought in 2006. It paid for itself within 6 months. Runs off a standard gas bottle from the local hardware store, and yeah, little ripper. This one here is big enough so you can do swords, knives, axes. If not, I use this one the most due to the cost, and it's also convenience. This one's instant heat, instant shut off, turn off the gas, close the doors, walk away. Where with the charcoal forge, the one that's actually underneath this, I don't use anymore due to the carbon monoxide and the charcoal goes in the air, what's really toxic to the lungs. I've also got a small portable little hand crank coke forge. I do recommend if you're going to do coke over charcoal, because charcoal is more expensive and more toxic to your lungs. What else do I need to bring? Oh yeah, punches. Then I've got a couple of hole punches that I've one of them I've made, one of them I brought years ago. I've found this one before while digging around trying to find all the gear. But yeah, good handmade chisel punch. This one here is made out of an old car spring. Then I do recommend getting yourself a couple of good center punches, because these will save your life. Like you can use these to mark where you want to have the bends, so you actually know exactly where to put them. Mark your holes, rivet holes, all those stuff makes it so much easier. But yeah, from this point on, all the rest of the stuff goes into more advanced. But this is what I recommend having for your introductory level blacksmithing. The stuff that I've got here will help you make the tools for the next bits. Next lesson that we're going to be doing on Campsite Out of the Fire will be we're going to start making S hooks, and that's lesson number 1 in making. So feel free, comment, subscribe, and like this page, and I'll catch you next time.